Hello, my name is Monica Kretschmer, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Universal Women's Network, Woman of Inspiration Awards, and this is the Woman of Inspiration podcast, where we speak with women who lead, inspire, and motivate. Today with me is Amy Friesen. She is the founder and CEO of Tea and Toast. So Amy has worked with seniors and their families since 2005, with her beginnings as a marketing specialist for retirement homes in Ottawa. She's always been motivated by the belief that seniors and caregivers need to be supported, aware and informed when making important life transitions. Now, Amy, I'm just going to leave it right there. I want to know, how are you breaking into this market? Firstly, welcome. I know that we had some technical stuff and we're going to have an awesome interview today, but I really think what you're doing right now, Amy, especially with our parents and our, elders, they're aging. This is an aging population. How did you get into starting Tea and Toast? And tell us a little bit about what you do.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for having me. I'm glad that we got everything settled. I'm so happy to be here. I have to say, I've had when I was younger, I had a big influence by my nanny, which was my grandma. And I lost my grandparents relatively early. So I had this kind of weird void that I didn't know was a void until I got out of university. And before that, I was in college and I was like, this isn't what I want to do. And then I went to university and I was like, okay, here's something. And then just kind of grab piece by piece. And so I just kind of built my own, my own job path, because I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I had this missing thing. And it wasn't until I started working in retirement that I was like, oh, that's it. Working with seniors, being close, helping them. That was it, right? Like that was the piece that I was like, oh, well, there it is. And it's hard to like put that into words usually, because you don't really know what you're looking for until you find it.
Yeah. So what's really important that I think that we talk about, and especially when we talk about navigating career paths, I haven't met one woman where that road has been like linear. Has it been linear, or has it been a little bit of a windy road for you?
It's been sort of linear, but it's windy as well, because in the retirement industry, I went from recreation to being really ingrained to marketing to helping people find what they needed. And then I thought my next step was really a regional marketing role in retirement. And I actually got passed over for one. And, it's all those things when you look back and you're like, that was really devastating. And then it's like, but it opened other doors and you don't see it when you're in the minute. But, I was passed over for a regional marketing role. I was downsized. I was off on sick leave from abuse from, my higher ups, like my GMs and things. Like there's different things that were happening. And it was all these bumps. And so, like I said, it was not linear, but it was in the same clump. And then I got laid off. I got laid off from my last spot. And I was like, oh man, this is like really devastating. And then within like a quick breath, I was like, okay, well, let's just do this. And then I just started going. And within 2 months, Tea and Toast was born. So, and ever since, we've almost 9 years at this point.
So interesting for our listeners today, Amy, that there's probably, I can guess, a handful of women who have been through that same journey where the doors have been closed. You've been overlooked for opportunities to strengthen your leadership on that path that you think that you're on, because that's the area of expertise that you've honed your skills into. What I would love to know from you is, as you were going through that, how did you get out of that feeling of being defeated or overlooked? Like, how did you own that feeling, and how did you, get to the point 2 months? Like, what was that 2-month period like for you? Because I want to talk about those uncomfortable parts that everybody can relate to get to the other side. Because we always say door number 2 is even better than door number 1. So what words of advice would you give to those listeners that might be struggling and transitioning between door 1 and 2?
Well, I think that the main thing is to know, yes, usually it feels devastating. Usually it's very, very upsetting, in this realm of conversation. And I think it's important to own that and go through it, because then you're looking at, okay, this is devastating. What do I want to do? And you have to figure something else out, right? When I'm not just going to sit on the couch the rest of my life. You're just getting to know me, but I don't sit still very easily. So, what are we going to do to figure this out? And I knew that the route before that, like just before that, was really bumpy. And so it had been years of kind of like, I had to go on sick leave, like I said, and it was something that I wasn't super comfortable doing. I had never done it. I'd never thought about doing it. And just the environment just was not good for my mental health. And so I chose to go off, and, reflecting on all that, and I remember calling my mom in the car after I got laid off, just bawling, because it's like, I didn't expect that. I feel like I'm good at what I do, and it wasn't a performance-based layoff. It was a personnel-based layoff. And so I was like working through it. And then, I get bored easily, I guess. And so it's like, you're sitting on the couch, you're upset, you're dealing with it. And you're like, okay, well, I got to do something. What is it going to be? And so you just look at the options, and it's, I was already kind of thinking about this realm, and it just really gave me a chance to catapult. So I would say, own your feelings, feel it, because you need to grow from every opportunity, even if you don't think it's an opportunity.
Perfect. You talked about purpose, and I want to talk a little bit about that. It isn't until sometimes you have those forks in the road that you actually sit down and you pause long enough to think about, what is my purpose? What are my core values? How important was that to align your next door number 2 to your purpose and your values?
Well, I think I realized, with like I said, I was turned down for a regional role and things like that. And I think what I realized upon reflection was, if I would have not been turned down for that regional role, I would have been in a very different avenue right now. And what it would have done is it would have taken me away from the seniors and the families. And that's where I wanted to be. Right. And so I figured that, what am I going to do in that realm that's close, so that I'm helping them still? And then I realized, that other role wouldn't have worked. I wouldn't have been able to stay there, because it just wouldn't have been my personality and what I was driven to do. And so, I had to take a hard look and figure out, what is my purpose? And really, it was, at the end of the day, it was helping seniors and families navigate this industry that I love. It's an ever-changing and growing industry, and it's still quite new. It's in, infancy as far as I'm concerned, watching things happen in it. And there's so much potential to help. There's so much potential to help families and the seniors they love. And there's so much potential on the other side of my personality or my work habits and things like that, to grow something of my own, which I couldn't have done before. So I was able to see it kind of differently at that point.
So my next question for you is there a concept and idea for tea and toast? How much has that changed from your initial vision from where you are today, 9 years later?
I was thinking about that the other day, because it's huge now, right? It's interesting, because my concept originally was, let's form up Tea and Toast. I'm going to help seniors and their families navigate and be essentially a marketer in the community, so that I can bring them the right options, because most people were coming to the homes that I worked at, they wanted X and I had Y. And so I always was sending them out and never being helpful. And so it was literally just to fix that problem. But what happened as we grew, my reputation grew, my brand grew, things like that. What happened was more needs opened. And so there's more and more things coming up that I could address, that I could help with, that I added in, and then we added people. And, right at this very moment, Tea and Toast is the only business in anywhere, maybe even at least Canadian, that operates in the style that we operate and offers what we can offer, which is remarkable, which I never thought would be like I never expected that to happen, right? So it's interesting how it went from, let me just help a couple of families. And I remember the first couple of families, it's like, oh, I did it, yay. And it's like, you prove to yourself that you can do it, right? And then it's like, it builds and builds and builds. And eventually it's like, oh, I need another person, right? And so we build, and now our team's 8 to 9. So, there's a lot of us now, and we are just shaped so much differently than what I had anticipated happening. And with that, we have all these other opportunities that come up that we're able to take care of. But then it also grows you professional. And I have a Canadian network now, and I have a whole bunch of things going now, which is really interesting to look back on, kind of like day one.
So what were some of your biggest challenges as, from, the levels from startup to 0 to 9 to this point? What have been some of your biggest barriers?
I think that from even just getting into the retirement industry is proving that I knew that I could do it, but I had to prove it to so many people to get steps, because you're blocked at every spot, right? It's like somebody else has to give you the promotion, somebody else has to hire you. And at this point, like with Tea and Toast, it's like, it's me, I'm doing it. I can, I don't have to prove anything. And so one of the biggest barriers, and it does happen still, is that you have to have people believe in you. And so as you start growing, it's like more and more your brand and your reputation start to to unfold, and people start to believe in you more. And even now, it's, there's still people that, we're working with that we're not working with at the same time. And it's like, you have to get past the point where they don't know me as well. I have to prove something so that they understand that I can get this done. I can get this done professionally for the communities and the retirement homes that we work with, and we can get it done for the families that we work with.
Interesting that you're a change maker. You're a change maker, obviously, blazing a trail in an industry that is, like you said, still growing. There's lots of opportunities because, like you and I, we haven't been there yet. We don't know what we don't know. And I think that's probably the industry, is that the aging population, and I'm speaking from experience with my mom. I'm just going through this right now, where she's 77 and had a construction on her knee, and is dependent on help and support for 24 hours a day. So thank goodness I have siblings, and we take our turns, and we all just pitch in to make sure she can stay at home. But it does open up the opportunity for so many other products and services and supports where there is nothing. And then also the communication with the family. So I guess my next question is, you say that you have to prove yourself, but how do you think, what I think is so amazing is that you're blazing a trail in an industry that's still growing. You're a change maker, but expected to be an expert in an area that's still developing. So how do you navigate through that?
I think just trying to remain consistent with my messaging, consistent with me showing up and doing things. Again, kind of just proving myself every day, right? And just every single conversation I have is a mark to say, hey, we're doing this, and and I'm doing this here, and I'm doing that there, and just kind of, it's hard to explain. It's a matter of making sure that I'm consistent with what I'm doing. So, my branding for Tea and Toast is very consistent, and how I train my people is very consistent, and what we deliver is very consistent. And I've noticed that makes a huge difference. And so, people, because we're such a small business, like you said, it's so hard, because we're in this industry that I am an expert in, but it's like me here, right? And it's like, and it's just like showing people that no, I know this stuff, have a conversation with me. And so that's even, with retirement homes, not all retirement homes work with us in a way that they do across the board. With generally speaking, retirement homes work with advisors in a couple different ways, and some don't. And so generally speaking, it's just a matter of like trying to prove to them all the time. It's like, we know what we're doing. We know how to not only take care of the families and hear what they need, but understand what you need as well, and get you qualified people in your homes and do it properly. And it's just, communicating it constantly and kind of hoping that people start believing you once in a while. Like it's just every little win, right?
Well, I think there's a definite need for it. And, it's about the visibility, about the reputation, the more opportunities like we are doing right now. It educates people on sort of things that they didn't even need. Let me just try that again. It educates people on the things that they actually didn't know that they needed,
Yeah.
but now need, because it's just like situations come up. And I'm going to use my own personal experience. If this did not come up, do you think I would even have any sort of insight into the void of the industry right now? And there's one thing for certain, we're all going to age.
Mm-hmm.
We all have parents or friends or a network of aging support networks. So these issues are really important to talk about. And thank goodness that you've started a business that you are developing your expertise into, so that you can help guide everyone. So this is a great opportunity, I think. I really want to talk about next about support system, because I believe that's super important. Number one, to even have the motivation to take the step and start the business, but number two, to keep it going. So Amy, I'd love for you to share a little bit about that support network.
I think that, I've built my own support network around me. When I first started Tea and Toast, my husband and I were very new, and he just hung on for the ride at that point. I moved in with him, and he hung on for the ride, and we developed, and he's been a support network for sure the whole time. And then I just kind of pieced it together. And what was interesting is that there was a support network I didn't know or wasn't aware that existed within the marketing people at the retirement homes, because I was pretty well known already just from being in the industry. And all of them were kind of, behind me, just as a matter of, some of them were terrified for me. Most of them were terrified, but they supported me. Right. And even to this day, we have lots of conversations and whatnot. And so with that, I also built my team. And my team, like, we're our own support network, because like I said, there's not very many of us in the whole of Canada. There's only a handful of people that do what we do. And so we built the team, and then I brought my sister into the business. And so she's the support network as well. And we just keep building on. And that's why, with my team, it's really important that we're always, we're not always, but we're meeting regularly and doing things, because we're all digital, right? We're online, and then we're with our families. But as a team, we don't see each other that often. And that's why it's so important. And that's why I make it a priority to meet, because we're our own team. And then outside of that, I built a support network across Canada, because as someone who runs the business, my team can be supportive, other people can be supportive, but it's really difficult to find someone that can support you on the level that I'm at as running the business, as a business owner. So then I just went out to Canada wide and grabbed someone from every province. And I was like, let's form a group. And so we formed a group of elder care planners for support, for referrals, for all of that. And so I've been just piecing my support group together as we go, right? And whatever the next need is, and wherever I feel kind of a void in, I just try to develop that part of it, so that it all kind of comes together in a nice little bow on top.
Well, very smart move. Number one, congratulations that you found to support her. He was behind the scenes, I saw, with you, trying to make sure everything was ready to go for the podcast today.
Yeah.
So allies. And that's one of the next questions for you. So how important is it to have or support hers and her male allies in our corner as we navigate through?
Excuse me. So it's super important. I think that generally speaking, they don't, sorry, I've got a frog in my throat. To have people that are just rooting for you all the time, trying to help you improve where you can and get further all the time is really difficult. Sorry, I'm choking a lot. Just 1 second. I have a frog in my throat. Oh, I can't hear you.
I just paused my microphone just a second. All right. So we just roll with it, Amy, all the time here, because I think that's authentic. So just to recap, how important is it to have, allies?
Well, it's super important. Really just knowing that there's people out there rooting for you, pushing you up when you need the help up, handing you like a hand and pulling you up at sometimes. It's just a matter of, I go out sometimes at networking events, and as our 8 years have grown and I've grown as a person, it's interesting to go to networking events now versus when it was, when I started. And it's so many people know who I am in the business world now. And it's a little bit surreal, to be honest. And they're cheering for me. And it's, I don't think about it all the time until, a pointed question like this. And it's like they're there, I posted something on Facebook and it blows up, right? Because they're like super happy for watching the achievements and things like that. And that's been really important to me, because again, as someone who owns a business in a world that doesn't have very many businesses like mine, you have to find that support network. You have to find those people that are willing to step up for you and say, no, she knows what she's doing, give her a shot, or have a conversation. And it's been really important.
And so I'd like to chat about some of the women that inspire you. So who are some of the women that you sort of, either seek out as mentors, or, women that you find inspiring that keep you motivated?
Some of the really, my team is full of, we're all women at this point. And I got to tell you, watching them grow, watching how they work with our clients and the families and how they talk and how they present themselves, I really do find my team inspiring. Probably why I want to hang out with them all the time. I'm making them hang out with me at that point, because I'm just watching them, and it's like they're just the way that they can operate and understand that what the needs are of the community, and really be authentic and caring, and just have that empathy is super inspiring to me. Like I said, my sister's with me now, and really, we've had a bumpy road, and she's been with me for a couple of years now. Sorry, I should say our relationships had a bumpy road, but I brought her in because I was like, we're going to fix this. And watching her daily grow into a role that she did never know she was going to be in, and completely opposite of where she was, and watching her just grow and take that on and own it for herself, but own it for me as well in the business, and just get it done is super inspirational to watch.
Very cool. And so tell me about some of the best advice that you were ever given along your journey.
Best advice I was ever given. I'm not at the top of my head. I'm just, let me think here for a minute. I would say probably that, just be consistent. Be authentic, be consistent, keep going is kind of the best advice I've gotten. Is just, there's definitely going to be bumps. There's definitely going to be hurdles. If you believe in yourself, and, I know where I'm trying to go, even though I make up new jobs all the time, like things that don't exist, like, let's do that now, right? And it's like, just, keep going, keep communications open. A lot of the stuff that I do now is also, trying to correct some behaviors of my own past bosses and things like that as well, right? And saying, I don't want that in my business. That's not how I will operate. And so, even though it wasn't advice, it was kind of that best practices, let's not do that. I'm going to do this for my team, and we're going to be different, and I'm going to be a different kind of leader.
Beautiful. Learning from experience. And what, we talk about that consistency, and this is a question that I ask all of the women that I interview, is a topic that's really hot. and it's in the imposter syndrome. So A, have you ever experienced it? And B, if you have, how have you overcome it?
Oh, it's alive and well. Even even today as we're speaking, it's alive and well. It's one of those things that, again, you have to know what your purpose, I was gonna say, you have to know what your purpose is, and sometimes it's hard to find that, but there's something in everyone that is driving them to a point. And it's like, at some point, you just gotta keep your head down and just keep moving forward, even though it's gross sometimes and bumpy other times. And imposter syndrome doesn't really go away, I don't think. Like, it's just been constant. And if it's one area and I get over that, then it's another area right after that. I've been asked to go on to newsreels. I've been asked to be a panelist. I have something coming up next week. And it's like, okay, like, it's like, okay, I'm gonna do it. And it's like, I just say yes, right? I just say yes, and I figure it out later. Because obviously the people that are asking me to be a part of this see something, they want me to contribute, and you can't let it get in the way. You can't let the imposter syndrome get in the way. I just say yes, and I just go for it and just cross my fingers a little bit.
I think that's perfect. And because also it means growth. I mean,
Yeah.
you talk about it, there's something new and it's uneasy and it's uncomfortable, but I'm going to say yes and I'm going to jump right into it. So I think that has a lot to do with the integrity of and sort of the alignment with your values, and what you're really passionate about creating and making the impact in the world. So celebrating women, as you know, is super important to us for the Universal Women's Network and like Women of Inspiration. But why do you believe now more than ever, Amy, that it is important to celebrate the accomplishments of women?
I think that, taking a minute to highlight, again, it's the same thing I do with my team. It's like, even within our teams and within our people, it's important to tell people that they're doing a good job. It's important to put out there that, we're doing whatever, and in celebrating it in that way, so that a lot of women feel like they can't contribute, or they're not contributing in a certain way, or they don't do it this way, and so it's wrong or whatnot. And I find more often than not, a lot of the women, including myself, we can very much get things done. We just do it differently sometimes, and a lot of the time, actually. And so, my mind works a lot different than a lot of people I meet, and that's just who I am. And so, not even just, celebrating women for sure, but just celebrating the person, right? And like, every person matters, and every voice matters, and everybody is important. And so, what somebody brings to the table should, be acknowledged. And women specifically, and also really, young women that are just coming out of school and just trying to find themselves, it's important to, say, hey, you're on the right track, keep doing it. What do you want to do? And just like keep encouraging them to find their voice, because I don't find enough women speak up. And so I think that, my voice has been, I'm pretty bold and I'm pretty loud, but I wasn't that way. And I wasn't that way for a long time. I was in an abusive marriage for years. And I was just telling someone the other day, it's like, I think that my personality was probably muted for that whole time, because I'm an entirely different person now. And it's, if I would have had more people to say, you're worth it, you're worthwhile, do something, make a move, and just encourage whatever that was, right? Encourage for jobs, encourage for getting out of that marriage, encourage for, a whole host of things. Just some people to rally around each woman and say, you're worth it, do it, get on with it, make your life what you want to make your life.
Women need to be seen, heard, and valued. We're really
Absolutely.
not that complicated.
No. Yeah.
So wrapping up our amazing interview, by the way, you did an awesome job.
Really? Because I feel like imposter syndrome right now. So
no, you would have no idea. And that's the thing, right? I mean, when we're growing and trying different things, we're going to be uncomfortable. And I've felt it myself many times too. So I think that's just the realness and the authenticity that we need to talk about to really, help others that are going through it at that time as well, because you're not alone. But before we end this amazing podcast, and of course, it's Woman of Inspiration podcast. So, Amy, tell me what a woman of inspiration is to you.
I think a woman of inspiration is just someone that can see a path and wants to motivate people and make change and contribute to their passion, their industries, their world, and just keeps going, right? They just keep going no matter how many hurdles are in their way. You just climb right over them, right? And it's about inspiring your teams and the people around you and motivating them to make changes in them that they feel are appropriate, and just to keep going, and making sure at the end of the day that everyone is respected and everyone is communicating. And I think that goes a long way to be an inspirational woman. It's just not being untouchable, but being super down to earth and just being there in the thick of things, just getting through the weeds and doing it every single day.
A whole lot of grit and perseverance, and ambition, integrity, all wrapped up into one. And that's exactly how I describe you, actually, Amy. Love what you're doing. How can our listeners get a hold of you and learn more about Tea and Toast?
Absolutely. Head on over to teaandtoast.ca for some more information on Tea and Toast, and my bio and everything is there, and you can contact us right through the site.
Awesome. And also probably live and kicking on LinkedIn as well. I think that's a great tool for some of the business people that want to connect up with you. So absolutely. Amy, thank you so much for joining us on the Woman of Inspiration podcast. It has been an absolute pleasure. We're so excited to have you part of our Changemaker Woman of Inspiration book. And we look forward to the journey ahead and really seeing you, soar to new levels and, expand Tea and Toast across Canada and beyond. So thank you so much for joining us. Any last words that you'd like to share with our listeners today?
I just want to say thanks for having me on. And like I said, keep pushing, just keep pushing through the weeds and the grit, and you'll get there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Amy. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was Woman of Inspiration podcast. If you loved this episode, please, I encourage you to connect, like, and follow, and learn more about Amy and Tea and Toast, and really listen to more of the podcasts and share it with your network. You never know who might need to hear the words of wisdom that our leaders are sharing with us today. So thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.